Okay, welcome everyone. So in this stream, I'm going to be having a look at Taurox, the Brass Bull. This is one of the new Beastmen lords that came with the Beastmen rework. And so he gets some special faction effects. The first one is the Rampage, and this gives him a special kind of resource called Momentum. And when he has battle victories, or when he wins battles, then he gets some of these resources which he can earn towards getting some rewards. Doesn't really explain much on the actual screen here, but we'll be able to have a look at that actually on the campaign map. He also has a reduced cost for increasing the capacity of Minotaurs. He gets a special effect called the River of Blood that he leaves in regions after winning battles, and it stacks 3 times. Extra weapon strength for Minotaurs, which goes well with this reduced dread cost for increasing your capacity of Minotaurs. And then he gets a special ability called Blood Beast, which of course we can't see again on this screen just yet. Now as to the Beastmen and their rework, they have this nice new mechanic called Herdstones and Bloodgrounds. And so they can't really have settlements per se, but when you destroy a settlement, at least for the first time, or if you have enough Herdstones, you can then raise a Herdstone, which is like a settlement. And the mechanics for it are similar, but not quite the same. Now, Taurox does start with one of the nice new units, which is the Gorgon. And this is a anti-large unit, and it also has regeneration, which is quite nice. He also gets a unit of Minotaurs with shields. He's screaming a bit too much for me at the moment in this cinematic here, so let's just start the campaign. Even by the animalistic standards of the Cloven Ones, Taurox is a raging hulk of indiscriminate violence. Those unfortunate enough to face him think it is simply his nature, a chaotic disposition born of his own savage essence. Though that may have once been true. Since attaining his brass body, he has been fueled by countless turbid visions placed in his primitive mind by the ruinous powers, driving him toward his many unspeakable acts of brutality. The blood beast will not stop until all the world is his blood ground.
Hail, mighty Slaughterhorn.
Hail!
I pray you spare me in this rare...
Let's skip the old man talking. Okay, so here we get a bit of a better explanation for Taurox's special mechanic, which is called Rampage. This says as he wins battles, he earns Rampage marks. This is one of his special resources, which fills up his Rampage bar. Fighting more battles per turn keeps his momentum up and fills the Rampage bar more quickly, so you get more resources, faster, of course. Passing through thresholds offers choices of rewards, which he can choose from one. Okay, so if we want to actually have a look at the Rampage mechanic, is this button here hidden away in the top center of the screen. And so here we see the kind of bar that has to build up. Once you reach this first tier here, you'll be able to choose from one of these rewards. The second tier, better rewards, and the third tier, even better rewards. Again, that part is pretty simple. And the rewards are fairly nice. You can get some spells, so the army ability Vile Tide, which is an explosion, which is quite nice. You can give your whole army some extra ward save, which I think is really, really good. I consider ward save to be one of the top tier statistics that you can have really for any unit, because it prevents any kind of damage, whether it's fire or magic or physical or ranged or melee. It doesn't matter. Ward save will reduce that damage, and so that makes it really, really valuable. He could give Blood Greed to the whole army, and if we click on this, we can mouse over Blood Greed. Taurox also has this skill. Increases melee attack and charge bonus, and also leadership, and makes them immune to psychology, which means they won't suffer any effects from things like fear or terror. So they won't get that that leadership malice from fear, which would be quite nice. Or alternatively, there is this other benefit. This one would reduce leadership in the whole local region, and also enemy melee defense in the local region. And that's not a small amount of reduced melee defense, considering that if it applies to the whole region, then it will apply to every single unit in every single army. Every single unit would have -8 melee defense, and every single unit would also have -8 leadership. And Taurox does get some nice kind of anti-leadership abilities on top of this already. So combining those things together, you could probably get some nice knock-on effects and very strong morale damage kind of builds. So let's have a look at Taurox himself. Taurox is a Slaughterhorn. He gets a different kind of raiding stance, which is called the Juggernaut raiding stance. So this actually gives him even more movement range on the campaign map, but to kind of counter that, he gets reduced raiding income, which is fine. Most of the time, you want to be making your money from winning battles rather than raiding with Taurox anyway. The River of Blood effect, as mentioned previously, and the other things that were also mentioned previously, such as the extra weapon strength for Minotaurs. So let's have a look at this raiding stance, which is here. This is Juggernaut raiding stance. So it actually increases his movement range by 50%, which is really big. Of course, gives him the typical extra bestial rage, minus growth in the raided province. These are all standard across the Beastmen raiding stances, so nothing different there. He starts with a small army, as all armies do, some Harpies, some Ungor Spearmen, Ungor Herds, of course the amazing new unit, the Gorgon, and the Minotaurs with shields, and he also starts with a Grey Shaman, which you can find here. Let's see what statistic he started with. He got the extra leadership and immune to psychology trait, okay. And this is basically just a spellcaster. They only start with one spell to begin with, which is Devolve. But as you level them up, you will of course be able to unlock further spells. You know, you have Brace Scream, Vile Tide, Traitorkin, and then some very nice ones such as Savage Dominion. This one allows you to summon a Cygor, which is a high tier unit. So this is a really nice spell if you put it to good use. It allows you to bring one extra high tier unit onto the battlefield that you don't need to have in your army to begin with. So generally I try to focus on unlocking this kind of second tier of spells here, because there are some really nice spells, as we can see. This one will increase the weapon damage of a unit really significantly along with its melee attack, while reducing its armor. So let's just throw the spellcaster into the army to begin with. This way we can use him in the battle. And like most, or if not almost all races in Warhammer, you know, at the start of the campaign, within your first turn, you almost always have a battle that you can take within your movement range, a battle you can take on your first turn. And we can see here that we can't move down to this Temple of Adioth here, but we are in range of Storac Core, which is owned by the Orcs, the Broken Chains, and you begin at war against this faction. And so if we just take Taurox and we attack this settlement, this is a very easy battle to win actually, and so usually what I would do is I would just auto-resolve this first battle, unless I'm looking to mess around and have some fun with the Gorgon. But for now I'm just going to take battles that actually have a few more units in them and actually pose some kind of difficulty and actually are entertaining to play, rather than just stomping small and weak armies. Okay, so we get some favor. Taurox levels up. and no items from this battle, that's fine. And what we can do now is we can raise a Herdstone immediately in this settlement. This is the new mechanic of the Beastmen. So let's do that. Okay, there we go. And now that we've done that, we have unlocked the first technology that we can research. Until you actually put a Herdstone down, you have no technologies to research. They all come with requirements before you can start researching them, such as this one. You have to win 5 ambush battles. This one is 5 siege battles. This one is 2 rituals of ruin. And once you research this one, you gain access to the 4 to the right of it, and the same applies for all of these other ones. And then you have some of the more special technologies along the bottom that have some slightly higher requirements. Summon 10 units in battles, so just like that Savage Dominion spell that the Bray Shaman can unlock later, summoning a unit in battle will count towards this summon 10 units. Once you've done that, you can then research this technology, which actually gives you an extra use of that spell Savage Dominion, which is quite nice. Other things such as create Herdstones in 3 different climates, or kill or wound 5 faction leaders, and so on and so forth. There are a lot of different things that you can gain here. But this one is the Plight of the Nohorns. This will give some extra melee attack to the basic units that Beastmen have. And then once that's done, we can get some nice upgrades like some extra speed for all units, or extra weapon strength for all armies, all units in all armies when fighting against dwarves, high elves, wood elves, dark elves, and men. So as long as you are kind of trying to fight the good guys, dark elves not included, then you're going to be at an advantage of weapon strength here. And thank you for the follow, Zudon. Very nice of you. Usually I would go for either Worldbane or the Uncloven Hoof and Twisted Claw first. I think these upgrades, as they apply to all units and all armies, they have more value in that way. So those are the ones that I like to take first. The Raining Blood skill, although it is a reasonable upgrade for Ungol Raiders, a lot of the time Ungol Raiders are not that useful in a Beastman army. They're a very low tier unit. They don't do a lot of damage. You can use them at the start of the campaign. You will use them at the start of the campaign, and going on towards maybe turn 15 or 20, you then might start filtering them out of your army. And so it's not a super useful technology. Of course, if you like archers, feel free to take it. Nobody's going to stop you. So having won this battle now, we have this Herdstone here in Storac Core. If we click on the settlement, we can have a look at the Herdstone here. It provides a pretty reasonable garrison, and it also increases your ambush success chance in this region, which is quite nice, considering that all Beastmen in their standard stance have a chance to ambush, of course, depending on the terrain and the ambush chance that terrain provides. So if we click on Taurox here and we mouse over the terrain, we see this terrain is hills, and that means we have an ambush success chance of 55%, which has been increased 5% thanks to the bonus from the Herdstone. Once you've built a Herdstone, though, you then have an option to build some Herdstone enhancements, of which you have 4 different kinds. So you have things like extra horde recruitment capacity and casualty replenishment with some extra chaos corruption, a couple of Centaurs as extra garrison. You have some extra winds of magic, and provides line of sight over all regions in the Blood Ground. Now this is actually a really nice one. If we click off this and we click on Store Core and we zoom out, what we see here is this kind of red layering over the terrain represents the Blood Ground. And so whenever you see the effects things within the blood ground and you want to know which regions that actually will affect, then you can just click on the settlement as I did here and zoom out and just look at where the red layering is. And so if I do take that upgrade, all of these areas here will be revealed to me. I will have line of sight over all of these areas. And in some cases that can be really helpful because you'll be able to see where any enemy armies are. You will know if enemy armies have left a settlement to go somewhere else or not. So then that allows you to plan and move in advance. If an army leaves a settlement that you want to take, it's going to be much easier for you to take that settlement then because you had that kind of information available to you that you wouldn't have had if you hadn't built this Herdstone enhancement. Now, although it is a very nice enhancement, most of the time I choose not to build this enhancement first, and I'll show you why. The second one here is an interesting enhancement that gives you some bonuses, or further bonuses, to ammunition and, well, ammunition for your Beastmen units. But it also decreases the reload time, oh sorry, not decreases, but increases the reload time for enemy towers in siege battles. So if you've played a siege battle before, you know there will be walls and there will be towers. As long as the AI has units on the walls next to the towers and they control the towers will be shooting at your units if your units are within the very long range of those towers. What this does essentially is it makes those towers reload slower, and therefore they will fire slower as well, which means your units are going to take less damage from enemy towers when you are sieging those settlements, those major settlements. Now it also decreases the missile damage as well, so not only the reload time is increased, but the damage as well from the projectiles is also decreased. And this is for all blood ground regions. All blood ground regions. Not only this one, for all blood ground regions. And so if you are having trouble taking major settlements, if your units are becoming pin cushions on the way to the gates, on the way to the walls, then you can maybe choose this Herdstone enhancement. And as you build more Herdstones and you build more of these, of course this is going to increase even further. And then that would be a nice solution to your pin cushion problem, right? It also increases the siege towers that will be built per siege item. So if you build one siege tower, this will actually build 2 siege towers at once. And then finally, the Heartstone enhancement that I personally really like, and this is called the Winds of Malady. And the really nice thing that I like about this one is the bonus we can see in the middle, which says a small chance for a plague to break out at the start of each turn. This plague will not harm Beastmen, Warriors of Chaos, or Norskans. And the plague is very similar to a Skaven plague, except it causes chaos corruption, it causes attrition to armies in the settlement as well, and the plague can continue to spread even further. So if I build this enhancement in Historic Core on the next turn, there could be a plague spreading to either the Temple of Adioth or Clar Carond or Cragroth Deep, but then it can continue to spread. So it can spread then from Clar Carond out to Venom Glade, and this then is essentially spreading chaos corruption in a kind of passive way, in a way that you didn't really need to do anything other than just buy or build this Herdstone enhancement. So this is the one that I always like to take first. I find like it's a nice bonus to put and to spread out along the blood grounds, and especially right at the start of the campaign. That's what I'm gonna build. I think Taurox did get a level up. And then for the first skill, the one that I will take for every single lord, every single time, will always be campaign movement range. That extra 10% movement range will always come in handy. Sometimes you just need that little bit extra to reach that army you want to engage in battle, or that settlement that you want to engage and destroy. And sometimes if you are just that tiny bit short of being able to do that, it can feel a little bit frustrating. Especially then if you go to your skills and you see that you didn't take this skill. And if you had taken it, you would have been able to then engage in that battle when you wanted to, rather than having to wait until the next turn. And sometimes all you need is one turn for an enemy army to come back and garrison inside that settlement, and maybe make that battle much, much harder than you wanted it to be, or make that battle actually then unwinnable. So this movement range does have a lot of utility, and that's why I will always take it first. So I'll take this one on Taurox. If we press the select next button here, we can then put 1 point into the spell here, and that will unlock these 4 other skills and spells for the Bray Shaman the next time he levels up. Okay. All done with that. No more movement range for Taurox. We can build this heads on spike upgrade for his horde. This will gain 20 extra dread per turn. If you're not familiar with the new Beastmen and their rework, then you won't know what dread is. But I'm going to build this one, and I will show you the rewards of dread, which is here. 4 different tabs. Actually, the items tab is not for dread, but actually is for favor instead. But what the Beastmen have now, the way they work is they can recruit all units for free. They don't have to pay for them. There's no upkeep, but they have a capacity limit. So once you unlock Minotaurs, you can't just fill your army with Minotaurs. You'll be limited to either 2 or 3 Minotaur units, and that will be it. You can't have any more. But by having the Dread resource and purchasing these upgrades, you can increase the capacity. You can increase your ability to then recruit more of this specific unit. This is a nice way to kind of specialize the army that you personally want to have. If you really like, let's say, Bestigors, then you can upgrade Bestigors. You can You can spend your dread here on these, and you can then have a higher capacity for Bestigors. You can have more Bestigors in your army. Maybe that's your favorite unit. Alternatively, you can do it for any of these units, but as you go up the tier list, of course, the cost is going to increase. So having more Ungor Spearmen will only cost 100, whereas if you want to increase your Gorgon capacity, that's going to cost you 600 by comparison. You can also use it to purchase the other legendary lords. So of course we have Kazrak the One-Eye, Malagor the Dark Omen, and Morgur the Shadowgave, and they cost 1200 each. Alternatively, you can increase your hero capacity as well. So if you want to have a lot of Gorbals or War Gors in your army, this is where you're going to spend your dread to allow you to do that. Then finally, you have some upgrades for your Herdstones and for your hordes, and some more general upgrades that you can utilize on the campaign map. So you can't naturally upgrade your Herdstone. You see here it says cannot build. We have to purchase the Herdstone upgrade in the rewards of dread panel. So that is what we could see here. And once you have 375 dread, you can purchase this upgrade, and then you can upgrade your Heartstone to level 2, but not before. And the same for the level 3, level 4, and so on. And then you have these small kind of, it kind of looks a little bit like a tech tree. You can recruit lords and heroes at a higher rank, level 5, level 10, level 15, or new horde armies come with higher level horde encampment buildings, maybe even extra buildings like a den and the scorched grass plains buildings. Then finally you have some nice items here. These don't cost dread, they cost favor, which is, you know, essentially your gold for Beastmen, although it comes with a different name. And some of these are really nice. You have some really nice items such as the Champion's Essence. This gives you Drunken Bravado, which gives you Perfect Vigor. And if you don't know what Perfect Vigor does, that essentially means whichever unit has this item will not lose vigor as they fight in battle. Vigor is essentially a measure of how tired they are. So the more time they spend running around, the more time they spend fighting, you know, that statistic is going to go down over time. However, with Perfect Vigor, it won't go down. And what Vigor affects essentially is it affects their ability to fight. It affects their battle statistics. So if you are fighting against units that are winded when your units are at full Vigor, then your units are going to have a battle advantage over those other units. If you can force your opponents to run all the way across the map to you before you engage in battle, you know, that is a way that you can work in a vigor advantage into your battle before you actually begin fighting. It also comes with an extra 10% ward save, which is frankly amazing, and plenty of other nice things here. You also have a banner, some followers if you want to add them to your leaders or heroes, and other things like that. Okay, so then you might notice some of these numbers and half-sun symbols above these other settlements that we can see here. And essentially that is the mechanic. Let's see if we mouse over it. This is the mechanic, the new mechanic for Beastmen, which is called Devastation. And this shows the current devastation that we have gained by destroying this settlement and raising the Herdstone. And it says once devastation here reaches 10, we can activate something called a Ritual of Ruin. You might notice here it's saying Ritual Locked. That's because you need a minimum of 10 devastation before you can perform the ritual. So we gain Marks of Ruination, or further Marks of Ruination. We gained 10, first by destroying Storic Core and building the Heartstone here. But if we now go to destroy Clark Carond or Cragroth Deep, Shroktek Mount, or the Red Desert, we will gain the associated number here. So if we destroy Shroktek Mount, it will then be 12 devastation. There's a minimum of 10 requirement, and so actually just destroying one more settlement will allow us then to activate the ritual. And activating those rituals then will gain you these Marks of Ruination, which then, as you reach certain amounts, certain stages, provide you with some benefits. So we see here the first level, which is Ruination level 2. This says it unlocks additional unit recruitment capacity. So you see this capacity of units has become a significant kind of mechanic for the Beastmen in the rework. This will give us extra capacity for the different kinds of Cygors and for some Gors, some Chariots with the Tusk Gors as well, and it will also give 1 extra army capacity. Now Beastmen start only with 1 Lord. Every Beastman Lord starts with a single army, a single horde, and actually you cannot go higher than that until you reach, you know, these Ruination levels, and then once you get this extra army capacity, only then can you recruit another lord and have an extra horde and extra army. So working towards these Ruination levels in terms of building up your faction's strength is fairly important. So I think that's most of the mechanics explained. We do also have the Herdstone shards mechanic, and essentially you just need at least 1 Herdstone. If you want to raise a Herdstone like we have done in Storic Core here, you will need at least 1 of these Herdstone shards. Once you perform a ritual, you will get 1 Herdstone shard back so that you can then go and raise a Herdstone in another settlement. But what I want to do now is I want to move Taurox over to these 3 settlements over here to destroy them, to gain those extra devastation points, and then complete this ritual to increase the Ruination level. So let's end the turn. Okay. So now we can see that although we do have maximum movement range, we are still not in range of any of these three settlements. We can't reach them. Now sometimes you can utilize the special Beastmen stance, which is called Beast Paths, and you can use this to jump over mountains. Now in this case, actually in this position, we don't quite have enough movement range to jump over these mountains, so we can't use it here. We can use it if we'd like to go further here, but instead of doing that, what we can do is, if we first send Taurox out of the Herdstone, he is kind of garrisoned inside at the moment. If we just take him out, we see that we are still limited to moving, just slightly further. But if we switch to his special Juggernaut raiding stance, if you remember, this gives the extra 50% campaign movement range. We see here that we can move much, much closer. And then this way, on the next turn, we'll be much closer to Shroktak Mount, and we will be able to go to battle there. So let's end turn here. Okay, so the technology has finished, and we can choose the next one now. As I said earlier, I generally prefer to take either Worldbane or the speed bonus first. Worldbane only takes 5 turns to finish rather than the 7 for the speed, so I'll choose this one first. And now we can, now that we are in range of Shroktak Mount, we can then take this battle as well. So there is a Lord here with 4 units, and if we click on the settlement and we go to the garrison details, we can see actually that the Plague of the Crow has spread here, and that is because of this Heartstone enhancement. So we've had this Heartstone enhancement for exactly 1 turn, and it's already spread a plague somewhere. So it says a small chance for a plague to break out. But in my experience, that small chance generally translates into a guaranteed chance or a guaranteed plague spread fairly soon, rather than something you have to wait, rather than something that is kind of like rolling a dice and maybe you only get it after 10 turns. In my experience, once you build this enhancement, you are fairly guaranteed to get a plague spreading to some or at least one of the surrounding settlements. And like I said, this provides significant chaos corruption. We can see it's plus 50. It enables attrition for non-chaos worshipping armies. What the non-chaos means is if you are Beastmen, Chaos or Norska, it's not going to affect you, but for everything else it's going to affect them. And so if we go to battle now, we can see here that due to the plague, the garrison has actually already suffered some attrition, and they are no longer at full health. And so this is, a really nice way to help you in taking out the surrounding settlements, that are always around your Heartstones. Once the plague spreads, you can then use the plague as a tool to help you take out, even more settlements. And the plague can even continue to spread further and further. But this is a lot of units. It's a reasonable battle, and I would like to see the Gorgon and Taurox in action. So I'm not going to auto-resolve this one. I am going to fight it. Let's have some fun. Okay, do I want to gamble on this? Only 7. Let's gamble. 16, okay, very nice. So I don't see where the enemy units are at the moment. Now, one of the other nice things about the Beastmen is a lot of their units get Vanguard deployment. And so this allows you to play in a more kind of maneuver warfare style compared to some other factions. If I knew where the enemy units were, let's see if I... Okay, so we don't know where the enemy units are. And the main strength of the army at this stage at least resides in Taurox himself, the Gorgon. Let's have a quick look at this beautiful new unit. Wow. Great work by Creative Assembly. Looking forward to seeing this unit in battle. If you would like to remove the UI like this, the default key is K. Let's press K to bring it back. So as I was saying, the main strength of the army at this stage, although it's rather small, we do have some higher tier units. So we have the Gorgon, we have the Minotaurs with shields, and of course we have Taurox himself. And of course Taurox has this special ability called Blood Beast. And what this does is essentially, well, I mean, if we just read it, this is an explosion, and it's when it says target self, it means that the explosion is centered on himself. So it's like an explosion around Taurox. And this explosion causes fire damage. It's good against armor, but it also has this special burnt effect, which reduces the leadership of any of the units that get hit by it. And so one nice thing to do with Taurox in this case is to send him ahead of the other units, send him into the enemy army alone, let them crowd around him, and just let him explode, essentially. It won't cause any damage to him. The explosion won't cause any damage to Taurox, but it will cause some nice damage to all the units around him. So let's see if we send Taurox ahead by himself. The Minotaurs and the Gorgon, neither of them have the Vanguard deployment, unfortunately, so we can't get them so far ahead. And we will support them with the Bray Shaman. The Bray Shaman not being so great at your actual melee attacks itself. It does have a high weapon strength because it is a hero, but its actual melee attack and melee defense are nothing special, and it does have quite low armor. And this stage only has one spell, which is Devolve, and that reduces the speed, charge speed, and melee attack of the unit it targets. So that can still be quite helpful. If there is one enemy unit that is quite strong, you can use that on that unit to stop it from being able to do so much damage. Or if it's trying to run away, you can also cast it on that unit and it won't be able to run as fast. So I want to use these let's say 3 or 4 strong units to do most of the work for this battle, because these are very strong units, and we know that the AI army only has orcs and goblins, tier 1 units essentially, whereas the Gorgon is a tier 5 unit, and the Minotaurs with shields I think are either a tier 3 or tier 4 unit. So they are going to be able to smash through most of the enemy army by themselves. And then we can use the other Ungor units, the lighter units, just as a kind of supporting role. They're very expendable. We could use them in different ways. We could use them either to take the brunt of the first attack, or we could use them just to come in and kind of form an encirclement after we send in the Taurox and the stronger units. So let's see, let's put them I'm going to assume that the enemy army is going to be in the center here. I don't really know. Can't see anything at the moment. These archers are low health. They will be able to provide some kind of fire support, but not so much. And I'm going to turn skirmish mode off so that they don't just run away if enemy units get too close to them. Let's turn that off. Let's start the battle. And now that it's started, we can pause and we can have a look at what the enemy units are, what kind of formation they're in. The leader is a Orc war boss, and Orc war bosses are quite good in melee combat. Not as good as Taurox, of course, so what I'll do is, Taurox is a melee expert. He's very good at killing other melee units, especially enemy lords and heroes. So I'm going to send Taurox as the kind of assassin to kill this Orc war boss. Actually, we can notice here that the Orc war boss, it says, is tired already. This is the vigor stat. And so he's going to have reduced combat abilities, whereas if we look at Taurox, his vigor is fresh, so he's not suffering any drawbacks from that. We can also send the Gorgon in, of course, the Minotaurs, and the Shaman, who can just stay at the back and cast some spells. Let's see how this goes. If there are any archers, we could use the harpies on them. So let's send the harpies behind the army. Let's bring the Ungors off to the right side here. These Ungors will be just fine tying up these goblins. And we can bring the archer Ungors forward a little bit. So in goes Taurox, about to cause a big mess. And let's have a look at him. He is huge. And we see already that the Orc war boss is almost at half morale. Already lost a very large chunk of health, 20% of his health or so. These units are crowding around Taurox. If we bring him into the crowd here, we can use his explosion ability, just like this, big boom. Nice effect, stops him from crowding him, allows him to get through the crowd and go back to pounding on the war boss. These archers can now be attacked by the harpies, and we can send in the other infantry units as a kind of tying up force. There we go. And just make sure that, you know, if you're using your strong units to destroy a unit, in this case I used the Minotaurs to attack this Orc boys unit. Once they're routed and running away, just make sure you select your unit again and redirect them, so that you're always, you know, efficiently using your force for that. And there, the battle is won. And because it is a settlement battle, we don't need to run down all the enemy units. They should just all be killed in the end game result anyway. Let's end. The Minotaurs there getting 135 kills in about 30 seconds. And that's what I mean about having high tier units against low tier units. They just make mincemeat of them. So being able to recognize, you know, almost every army in the game, at least at the start of the game, almost every faction, every army that you start with has some kind of high tier units. whether it's knights or cannons or huge monsters or whatever. Almost every army and every legendary lord starts with some kind of special units like that. So just being able to recognize your special units and then put them to good use in battle means that even when it seems like the two sides are even in terms of numbers, if we count the units here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 units versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it seems it's about even in terms of quantity. But in terms of the actual power of the units, it is absolutely nowhere near even. So everything is killed because this is a settlement battle. And now we cannot raise a Herdstone because we do not have any of the Herdstone resource. We either can choose raise and advance or loot and raise. Loot and raise always gives a higher favor reward and also the Beastial Rage. It does provide a small amount of additional movement, but compared to the raise and advance, this one provides less favor, but you also get the extra casualty replenishment rate and some moderate movement speed. Now because the other settlements that I want to destroy here are not so far away, that extra movement speed is not really super necessary. But having the extra loot or the extra favor from this one can come in handy for building the horde, building upgrades and things like that. So I'm gonna take this one. Okay, so now it says that the ritual of ruin is available. If we look at Storac Core over here, we see that we can press this button to perform the ritual. And what that does essentially is all of the settlements that you have raised and that are still raised when you perform the ritual will become locked as raised. Essentially what that means is other factions will not be able to colonize the ruins until they destroy the Herdstone that is associated with them. So if I destroy Shroktak Mount and Red Desert and the Kragroth Deep settlements, and then I perform the ritual will lock all 3 of these settlements from being colonized until, or if, the faction or any faction can first destroy the Herdstone at Storac Core. And so that's why we have these nice garrisons, and these garrisons are what you need to actually defend all of the surrounding areas that you have raised in a kind of way. So that's also why upgrading the Herdstones can be quite important. So I'm not going to perform the ritual just yet. I'd like to destroy 2 other settlements first before I do that. So let's spend some skill points. Already have the campaign movement range, and after that, for depending on your choice, you can either go with the red tree or the yellow tree here. The yellow line gives you some personal kind of combat improvements for the Lord, or the red line gives you some upgrades for the units in your army. For example, Freakish Mutations provides some extra melee attack and weapon strength for Chaos Spawn, Giants, Jabberslies, and Gorgons. Hoofed Heavyweights is for Minotaurs. So if you want to build a full Minotaur army and you're getting the capacity upgrades for Minotaurs, then this skill here would also be pretty useful. But I like using Taurox as a meat grinder, and so I like to give him his own kind of personal upgrades for combat. So I'm going to take the yellow tree first. Got a weapon, the extra weapon strength from this relic sword. A follower for extra corruption, and the Bray Shaman also has an extra skill point to spend. I think I will take, let's see, we have Beastial Surge. Essentially this just means that anytime the Bray Shaman casts a spell, This will affect all the allies in range. The range is map wide, so it just means all allies on the map will receive this bonus for 9 seconds, which is an extra 15% charge bonus and an extra 5% vigor. Now some units, such as Taurox, have very nice charge bonuses. So if you take this ability and you cast a spell with the Bray Shaman before Taurox charges into battle, then he's going to get an even larger charge bonus when he does charge in, as long as it's within this 9-second window. And that's how you're going to make the best use of this passive ability. But I'm usually going to take this passive ability second and not first, because I want to take a more direct effect spell first, such as Vile Tide. This one actually is just an explosion spell, so I can actually do some nice damage, some nice kind of crowd control with this spell. And then also when I'm casting that spell, or after I get the next skill point and we take Beastial Surge, then whenever we use the explosion spell, we also get this benefit anyway. So that's Vile Tide. Okay. No more upgrades available yet. We can change to either Juggernaut Raiding Stance or change into the Hidden Encampment to recruit some more units. And the army is a little bit small at the moment, so why don't I just grab a couple more units, and then on the next turn I should still be in range to take this Red Desert Settlement. Okay. I was wrong. I am just barely out of range of this settlement, which is a little bit unfortunate. So what we can do instead is we can move a little bit closer here. Stay in the encampment stance and just take a few more units again. Let's say a couple of Chaos Hounds and another Archer. End the turn. Just a little bit short of taking that. Even with the extra 10% campaign movement range, unfortunately. Okay. So now we can recruit a hero. We already have one Bray Shaman. We could take another one if we wanted. This is more of a personal choice, really. It's up to you. Would you prefer to have more spellcasters, or would you prefer a Gorbel, who is a hero similar to Taurox? It's another large Minotaur, also very good at killing other lords and heroes, and I think the Gorbel also comes with some anti-large bonuses. Let's have a look. Khorne's Fury. So he comes with the passive ability Frenzy, which is actually very nice. So he gets both Blood Greed and Frenzy. Now, because these are augments, they only come into effect actually on the battle map. But once they do come into effect, if we put them together, that would be an extra 15 melee attack, as long as his leadership is not lower than 50%, extra damage, extra charge bonus, lots of nice battle stats. So actually this is a pretty good roll. The traits that you get on your heroes from these events is randomized, so you never really get the same one. If you are looking to kind of min-max your playthrough, then if you are just saving the game every turn, once you get the event and you choose your hero, check the trait that they got. If you don't like it, just load to the previous turn, end the turn again, get the event again, choose the hero, and see if they got a better trait that you like more. So I want to put this Gorbel into the army. Let's just send him on his merry way through the mountains here. And he'll be able to join the army maybe on the next turn. This turn, let's take out this red desert. Okay. So we can choose to build siege equipment if we want, but actually because we do have some units like the Minotaurs, some units come with this special trait, Siege Attacker, and as long as you have at least one unit with this trait, you can begin siege battles, or not siege battles, but major settlement battles immediately without building any siege towers, without building any battering rams, because essentially what the game is telling you is that these units already kind of function as a battering ram. And Taurox himself actually kind of functions like a battering ram. He's a huge, angry, metal Minotaur. And so he is exceptional just by himself at battering down the gates. And you can use him to do exactly that if you like. So Minotaurs, Taurox, also the Gorgon, also gets this Siege Attacker trait. And so we have a choice. We can either play the battle ourselves or auto-resolve. The auto-resolve, one of the nice upgrades to the auto-resolve in one of the recent updates is that it will now tell you if you are going to lose any of your units in the auto-resolve. So if we have a look on the left side here, we see one of the Chaos Warhound units flashing red. What that really is telling you is that if you press auto-resolve, then that unit is going to die for sure. Your other units are going to be damaged, but they aren't going to be totally wiped out. And so this is a nice way of being able to gauge whether it's worth just doing the auto-resolve or whether you actually really need to play the battle yourself so that you don't lose these units that the auto-resolve says you're going to lose. Now, the Chaos Warhounds are not particularly special, so I have no problem losing those. They are very, very easy to replace. There we go. Just lost the Chaos Warhounds. And I'm going to take the extra favor again. Okay. And there's a level up for Taurox. And now I have a choice between some of these combat bonuses or extra statistics. Now Taurox already has 130 armor, which is really high. And you can give him an extra 15 if you like. But I think personally that's just a little bit overkill. He already has so much armor to begin with. But what I usually like to take is some extra melee defense. Because when he charges into battle, you know, he gets bonuses to his melee attack from charging anyway. And his melee attack is already 58, but his melee defense is only 47. And so just to make him able to last longer and to take less hits in those kind of drawn out melees, usually I like to take Primal Instincts for that extra melee defense. The Shaman now has an extra skill point, and we can take this Beastial Surge ability so that whenever he casts either of his spells, we get that extra bonus to all units on the map. And so standing in the desert here actually is causing attrition. What we can use is either the Hidden Encampment, which makes you immune to attrition, or alternatively we can use the Juggernaut Raiding Stance, which also makes you immune to attrition. The other benefit you have from the Juggernaut Raiding Stance is that you get extra Bestial Rage per turn as well. So let's take this one. Let's move. Can't move at all actually. So actually, now that I think about it, what we could do instead is instead of raiding, both raiding and Hidden Encampment provide immunity to attrition. But the Hidden Encampment also provides superior replenishment and allows you to recruit some more units. And I did just lose a Chaos Hounds unit, and some of my units are a little bit low on health. So let's try the Hidden Encampment. We see the replenishment now is much larger, and we can recruit some extra units. We can get the Chaos Warhounds back that we lost, take another Archer, take another Ungor Spearman Herd, And we can also now... Oh no, we haven't ended the turn yet. Next turn we can then also embed the Gorble into the army. And actually by now Taurox has enough growth. He has the population surplus to upgrade his main horde building. So let's take that one while we are still in the hidden encampment stance. And really most of the time what I like to work towards with any of the legendary lords, or at least with beastmen, is I like to work towards the units that they are kind of thematically associated with. So when I play Morga the Shadowgrave, I like to work towards the Pits of Horror building here, so that I can have a almost half army of Chaos Spawn, with Taurox, who gets some very nice benefits for Minotaurs. Then I like to work towards this Fire Pit building. So I don't really want to spend any of my favor on other things unless I really have an excess of it. So I'm going to upgrade to the Hack Tree Copse, and then after that I'd like to save my favor because it's going to cost 7,000 for the third one here, and it's going to cost 6,000 for the Fire Pit. So I'm going to need a total of 13,000 favor by the time I have the 3 population surplus needed for this squalid encampment. So that's what I'm going to be saving my favor for. Once that's done, then I'll be able to have some more Minotaurs in my army, and Taurox of course does have that very nice 10% extra weapon strength for Minotaur units. But for now, let's just end the turn and move on. Okay, so we have a 17 unit army here. Actually, one of the things that I just remembered, I forgot to check, is the chapter objectives and the bonus objectives. These are some nice ways just to get some extra rewards as you play the game. So if we have a look here, actually I've already completed one. It says at the start of your turn, have at least 250 dread. I have 328 dread. Okay, so I've completed this one. I got this nice extra 1000 favor reward. Purchase 5 upgrades from the unit caps tab in the rewards of dread panel. Okay. Construct one of each of the following buildings: Pit Hovel, recruit a lord, and recruit the following hero: Bray Shaman. I already have a Bray Shaman. I'm not sure if I really want another one at the moment. And just remember that these are bonus objectives. You don't really need to do them. If you would like to work towards these extra bonus 1000 favor, you can of course do that. I don't really want another Bray Shaman. I will recruit a lord, but of course we have to wait until we reach Ruination level 2, and we get that extra army capacity before we can do that. Somebody has an extra skill point, it's Taurox. Okay. So now Taurox actually has unlocked these 2 mutually exclusive short skill trees. We have a choice either of Orgy of Slaughter for melee attack and causes terror, and then Blood Caller for extra melee attack for Minotaur units, or we have Bullish Metal for extra melee defense and Ward Save. Ward Save is very nice. Ward Save prevents any kind of damage, whether it's fire or magic or melee or anything, it doesn't matter. Ward Save will reduce damage of every single type, and that makes it, as I've already said, definitely one of my favorite statistics to have on any unit. And Herd Lord then actually gives melee defense for all Minotaur units. So if you want to be more defensive, if you want your units to last longer, you take the defensive ones. If you want to do more damage, higher melee attack, cause terror. If you don't know what terror does, once enemy units are at low morale or low leadership as it's called, then there's a chance, if they are near a unit that causes terror, there's a chance for these units to just run away in fear. and so they will then take extra damage because they are running away, and they won't be able to cause damage to your units either. So having terror sometimes can be a very helpful attribute to have, but I still prefer ward save, so I'm going to take this bullish metal. Okay, and now I can use my Juggernaut raiding stance to move much further across the map, all the way over to here. I can put the Gorbel into Taurox's army now. And then, hopefully, on the next turn, I do have enough movement range to reach Kragroth Deep and destroy that. And once that's done, I will be able to perform the ritual. Well, not be able to, I can already perform this ritual now. If I do so, I will get these 18 marks of ruination. But if I just wait one more turn until I've destroyed this settlement as well, we see if we click on Storad Core, we'll get an extra 6 devastation points, which will take this up to 24, and then we can perform the ritual. All 3 of these settlements will be ruins and will also be unable to be colonized. Okay, so quest successful. We got a quest to have a Brave Shaman hero in the Lord's army. We already have that anyway. So we met this requirement and we got the nice bonus of 3000 favor. Okay. The Dark Moon event. Now we have a choice of 4 different benefits. We can have all units replenished. This only occurs next turn, not on this turn. We can get extra campaign movement range, plus 50% for all armies. So this is a really nice one. I do like extra movement range. We can have Beastly Inclination. And this gives 15 extra melee attack for all armies. That means all units in all armies would get plus 15 melee attack. And that's not a small bonus. You also get 30% extra weapon strength, but it's only for melee infantry units. And infantry means the small units, it doesn't count for the Minotaurs, it doesn't count for Taurox. And those really are the key units of the army, although Taurox and the Minotaurs would still benefit from that extra 15 melee attack. Or we have Almost Fight, and this increases your horde recruitment capacity by 4. And you see, as you're recruiting units in your horde, you have, I think, a standard of 5 recruitment capacity. This would increase it by 4 up to 9. So this is actually a nice one to take if you, for example, have just lost most of your army, or if you have just recruited a new lord and you want to get a full army quickly. If you take this, your lord will be able to recruit 9 units per turn. So in two turns, they will be able to get an 18 units recruited. And so essentially you can make a new army just kind of appear out of thin air with this one, if you use it in that way. I think I'm going to take either Beastly Inclination or Campaign Movement Range. Let me think. I think the odds of me destroying the settlement are pretty certain anyway, so I don't think the extra melee attack and damage is super necessary, but the extra movement range, will always allow you then to reach another settlement or another army to engage in battle there. And that really also, kind of benefits Taurox, because that works with his special momentum mechanic, where the more battles he wins, of course, the more resources he gets, and once we reach a certain stage, we will have some rewards to unlock. So let's take this one. So for the next part of the quest, we have to kill 2,000 enemies. let's have a look at the Rampage panel. Okay. So we're about halfway up to the first Rampage reward. And with the extra movement speed, we do actually have the ability now, I think, to reach Kragroth Deep on this turn and engage in battle here. Let's see. Let's go. So what does this unit have? The Snotling Pump Wagons. Okay. Let's have a look at the map first. I think the Gorgon, where it is, where's the Gorgon? Here, the Gorgon with this anti-large and armor piercing will make very short work of these Snotling Pump Wagons, and that might be entertaining. So let's see that. And the Lord's name is Nobber. Great name. It's only 7 winds of magic. Let's gamble. I failed the gamble. Okay, fine. Only 6 now. Not a huge deal, I think. So now when I set up this army, of course, I think this is still going to be a very easy victory, but that doesn't mean that I just set up my units kind of willy-nilly, as that can sometimes be an easy way to lose extra units when you didn't really need to. So let's see. Let's take these Ungors that have the Vanguard deployment. These 2 are half health, so we'll take 2 at half health on the left, 1 at full health on the right. The Ungor Spearmen with shields on the flank in case of the Snotling Pump Wagons. The archers behind them. And turn off the skirmish mode on the archers. Can put the Chaos Warhounds perhaps in the forest here. They will be hidden. And the Harpies on the right side here, because we can send them over this terrain here. So this terrain actually, standard infantry can't go through this terrain here. It's kind of a terrain blocker for land units, whereas the Harpies can fly over it just fine. So the Harpies have a kind of terrain advantage here. And then of course the real meat of the army, Taurox and the Minotaurs, the Gorgon and the Gorbel with the Shaman supporting. These are going to be the shock troops of the army. So let's send these 3 forward. And we can let the army here come to us. 2 Snotling Pump Wagons on the right. So let's send the Gorgon to chew them up. And these Spearmen to attack these Pump Wagons that just ran into our Chaos Warhounds. And here go the Minotaurs making some orc mincemeat. We can use our nice Vile Tide spell here on these orcs. Lovely. Oh, forgot about the Gorgon here. Let's send him over to the Pump Wagons. Use the Harpies to kill the archers in the back. And let's send Taurox to kill this Night Goblin war boss. So the Pump Wagons are already running away, unsurprisingly. I'm not going to send the Gorgon to chase them, because they are faster. if they regain their leadership, they will come back to me anyway, so it doesn't really matter so much. Send the Minotaurs off to kill these goblins, and the Gorbel can come and help over here. See if we can use Taurox's explosion. Very nice. They lose all of their leadership, and this is probably going to cause a leadership chain reaction very soon. There's the pump wagons that came back. And almost done, just some archers left in the back. Once they run away, I think that will be it. There we go. Okay, done. Of course, Taurox and the Minotaurs, the Gorgon doing most of the work again. The Harpies do a nice job of always flanking those archers to stop them from just firing freely into your units. If you leave archers to shoot for too long, even if they are just even weak goblin archers, you can lose a surprising amount of health or units. So utilizing fast-moving units like the Chaos Warhounds or the Harpies, even just to tie up the enemy archers, is always a good use of them. That's a nice amount of favor from the settlement. And even more from the loot and raise. Okay, and now I have raised the 3 settlements that I said I wanted to raise. Now I'm going to perform the ritual, which will give me the 24 devastation that, you know, I've accumulated. It was 6 from Starro Core, 6 and 6 and 6. And so, yes. There we go. Got 31 marks of ruination from that. And that actually takes me above ruination level 2, which means I do now have 1 extra army capacity. I can recruit an extra lord, have an extra horde, an extra army following Taurox, or even just going its own way. So okay, that's fine, good. Taurox leveled up. And all of the Beastmen lords also get this very nice trait, Fueled by Blood. And this will further reduce vigor loss reduction, or it will reduce how much vigor they lose by 25%, which is very helpful. And it also increases their speed by 5%. Now you can also, you know, combine this one with the technology on Cloven Hoof and Twisted Claw, which is also an extra 5% speed. Now the Beastmen units are already very fast, even just the infantry are fast. And they tend to be faster than other units of similar types. So then also adding on these extra speed buffs will allow them to outmaneuver other enemy units, because enemy units won't be able to catch them. Let's now that I have the Beastial Surge passive, what you can do is, with the spell that you like, you can also upgrade it. So just taking the first skill point in the spell gives you the spell. But if we put an extra point in it, this will also allow the spell to be overcast. If we read the blue text at the bottom, it says it has a miscast chance of 50%, but if it does cast successfully, it will do increased armor piercing damage. Now overcasting the spell also does increase the Winds of Magic cost. But then if you take the further third point, and we can see what they do by mousing over each individual pip here. So just taking the spell, the first point gives us the spell Vile Tide. Taking the second point allows us to overcast the spell. So we can't overcast it without putting 2 points into the spell, but it also increases the cooldown of the spell by 50%, which is quite nice. And then if we put 3 points into this spell, it also reduces the Winds of Magic cost of the spell. So while Vile Tide itself only costs 9 Winds of Magic, we can see here to cast, if we put 3 points into it, and that will be reduced by 2, it will then only cost 7 Winds of Magic. And we get another bonus for the upgraded, which is the Overcast spell, which will also be decreased. So I like generally to use just one spell most of the time out of these ones, unless there's something unique, and upgrading it, allows you then to cast it more. The cooldown is reduced, and also the cost is reduced along with it. And I think those two things go together quite nicely. So I'm going to take 3 points here. That will unlock evasion. After that, I can then go and get some nice spells like either Savage Dominion for summoning Cygors, the Mantle of Gorok for that nice damage bonus, and of course the other things like Earthing and Magical Reserves. The Gorbel has also gained a skill point. And because I just use him as a kind of a melee combat unit, I tend not to take any of these blue skills here, and I just focus all of the points into those things that are gonna make him better in battle. So that is 3 settlements destroyed, and because of the ritual that was completed, these settlements now, we can just see this small thing here, defiled blood grounds, and it says here that these runes cannot be colonized until the Herdstone is destroyed, and it also adds an extra 20 chaos corruption to this zone, which is quite high. If we have a look at Storic Core here, we have the Herdstone. We can't upgrade it yet unless we spend Dread to upgrade it. Now I do have enough Dread to do that, so let's go to the Upgrades tab here, and here we have the Herdstones erected at level 2. So if I purchase this, and now I go back to my Herdstone, I can actually upgrade it now. It is a free upgrade. I mean, you have to spend the Dread to be able to do this, but otherwise it doesn't cost any favor. You don't need any growth or population surplus to be able to do this. And actually, any new Herdstone that you now raise, when you raise a settlement, okay, raise a Herdstone, raise a settlement, but these are the two different words of raise and destroy. Any other Herdstones that you raise will automatically be at tier 2. So they will come with this, improved garrison. They also come with the ability to then recruit some of these extra units if you don't have these buildings in your horde, which is quite nice. So let's upgrade this. And because we got the Ruination up to level 2 now, we can also recruit an extra Lord. We can choose between a Beast Lord and a Doom Bolt. Let's have a look at the traits they come with. Corn's Fury is nice. Determined is okay. Doom Bolt has Aggressive with 10% extra weapon strength. Okay, that's very nice. I do like that one. And Confident, extra leadership for all units in the army. Let's take this Doom Bolt. Okay, and I think we can garrison him inside the Herdstone here. And by garrisoning then, we also gain access to the local recruitment here. Of course, the Ungol Spearmen and Ungol Herd are already at maximum capacity, so we can't actually take advantage of it, but we can still recruit with the normal local horde that every lord will have. So let's throw a few units in here to begin with. Taurox the Brass Bull, some of his units are a little bit low health here, so what we might do is, if we go to Hidden Encampment, we can recruit some of these units again, so let's just even merge these ones. And let's recruit, let's say, I think 3 archers is enough. 2 more of the spearmen, maybe a Chaos Warhounds. We can upgrade the the buildings here, we can get the pit hovel, and I think there's a chapter bonus available for that, for building a pit hovel. Let's check. Pit hovel. If we build the pit hovel, we will get a reward of 1,000 favor, but it costs 6,000 to build the pit hovel, so it's not really a good return, or even any return on your investment. And so what I would prefer to do, I think, is keep my money. I do have 12,000. Is keep my money until I can build this squalid encampment. And of course, by having high bestial rage, this also increases, we see here, this also increases the growth of your horde. So generally, if you want to increase the strength of each horde and allow them to recruit higher tier units, you need to be fighting with them, or you need to at least be raiding with them, so that they do have this high bestial rage, so that they do get these growth bonuses. So you get the population surplus, you're able to upgrade your main encampment buildings, and then you can start building some of these higher tier buildings to get some nice units like giants and minotaurs and so on and so forth, whichever ones you personally prefer. Okay, let's end the turn here, and let's just check the Rampage panel. Almost up to the harsh Rampage streak, just maybe 20 or about 20 more Rampage marks I think are needed. And so now, after kind of finishing this blood grounds with this Herdstone, I get my Heartstone shard back. I'm able to now go and raise a different settlement, raise a Heartstone there, and create a whole new blood grounds across another area. If we click on Storac Core here, and we look at the kind of red overlay, that already shows us where the blood grounds already extend to. So they extend out to Claw Caront here, but they don't extend out to this side, out to the... Looks like maybe the Temple of Cain does, or is included, or is maybe included. No. So all of these settlements, along the coast here are actually not within blood grounds. But if I go out from the mountains here and I destroy Haggrave or the Temple of Cain or the Circle of Destruction, and I raise a Heartstone there, then this will then expand the blood grounds, as we see the red overlay here, further across these territories. Not exactly sure where, but as we see here, it's quite a large area, and you get a lot of bonuses within these blood grounds. Especially if you have built the Heartstone upgrades, like this Winds of Malady. This one allows us to spread plague, which can be very, 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 very helpful. The plague will cause attrition to garrisons and armies. That can allow you to get much easier battles. But this is going to be it for the introduction to Taurox. Just done a nice quick blood grounds run, destroyed 3 settlements, performed the ritual, upgrade our Herdstones, utilize the different things that Taurox can do, and think about how we can use his mechanics, to their best efficiency. But I think I'm going to stop here. Oh, Zudon. Oh, I didn't see that. Zudon, I'm sorry I missed your message. For some reason my chat is not loading. There's something wrong with my internet. Hello QQ Taser, nice to see you. Sorry I missed your message. There's something wrong with my stream manager at the moment. Let's see if I can if there's anyone I like streaming at the moment that I can raid before we end here. Okay, there is Alaric. I do like Alaric. I do like watching him. So let's
I just
go.
need someone's going.
Let's go raid. And so that's gonna be it from me, guys. If you enjoyed it, consider following, and I will be doing more of these. So for now, thanks for watching, and come back next time.